Hey everybody, Miguel, the movie encyclopedia here. Today I'm going to be giving my official review of the brand new sci-fi drama epic Ad Astra, starring Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. When I came into this film, I was really worried that this was going to be a very complicated and complex film, a very complex science fiction film, a lot like Interstellar, and that I was going to come out of this movie very confused and dissatisfied with the film. And I'm happy to say that that's not at all what happened. This movie actually had a pretty simple story that was surprisingly entertaining thanks to the fantastic performances by Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. And it also helps that this movie had a great message to it and some pretty striking visuals and a really interesting visual aesthetic. So let's get into the plot synopsis. The movie follows astronaut Roy McBride, played by Brad Pitt, who travels to the outer edges of the solar system to find his missing father, played by Tom Lee Jones, and unravel a mystery that threatens the survival of the human race. What made this movie really interesting was not really the story, because which I'm really happy about, because the story, I was really concerned that it was going to be very complicated and confusing, a lot like Interstellar, with these really complex plots. When in reality, the movie actually had a very simple story, made great by the really interesting message that James Gray was trying to make with this film, and the great performances by Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones, which I'll go into later. The message of this film is really surprising. It really came as a surprise to me in the theater because it really wasn't about space or about finding extraterrestrial life like the trailers made it seem. It's really about humanity. It's a message about how the real intelligent life that we need to be paying attention to is not the one in the stars, it's the one at home. That we need to really be focused on what's going on in our own lives instead of what's happening billions of miles away. And I thought that was a really profound message that I think used the whole space exterior of the film really well. I thought this movie had a really interesting message that really put this movie beyond just a simple father-son story. Although the father-son drama in this movie is surprisingly powerful, thanks to the performances by Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. Brad Pitt, though, for me was the MVP of this movie. I mean, he's not only the star of the film, but he gives one of the most unique performances I've ever seen from him. He plays this very isolated, very emotionless, very distant man who's always very serious and is trying to keep this very calm center the entire film as he's dealing with these really brutal emotional trauma of learning that his father is alive, is threatening the safety of the human race, and hasn't even tried to contact him once in the last 30 years that he's been in space. So it's really interesting just seeing this really strong-willed man just break down emotionally over the course of this movie. And it's really great to see him learn this important lesson about trying to reconnect with humanity, especially since he's so distant from everyone in his life. Tommy Lee Jones also gives a really great performance. It's actually quite fascinating throughout the entire film. The more we learn about him, and the more we learn about how he's connected to Brad Pitt's character. This movie also boasts a fantastic visual aesthetic with some really great CGI and some really interesting world building. The world of Ad Astra is a very interesting world that mirrors our own, that shows that even though we've expanded to the stars, the problems we have on Earth still followed us, and I think that's a really interesting message for this film. And it's really interesting to see this future Earth that really feels like something that could actually happen in the next 100 years. If I had to list really one major complaint against this film, it would have to be that there's several scenes in this movie where the story gets excessively slow. I mean, this is a slow movie throughout, but there's some moments where it just gets so slow, especially with Brad Pitt's constant monologuing, that it feels really, really boring. So if you're not into slow paced films, you're not gonna like Ad Astra. But if you are fine with slow paced films, honestly, I think you'll be able to get over these really boring moments. Because there's only a couple of them. But when it gets really boring, it gets really boring. So in conclusion, Ad Astra was a pretty good film. with a really interesting cast of characters, great performances, and a really profound message. The movie does have some problems, like how slow it gets in certain scenes, how slow Brad Pitt's monologuing can get throughout the film. But the message, I feel, really makes it worth it. It's not a perfect film. It's not an Oscar-worthy film, but it's a pretty good sci-fi drama epic. I'm gonna give Ad Astra a 7.5 out of 10 stars. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, click on the subscribe button. Tell me what you thought of the film. Tell me what you thought about the video. If you have any videos what you'd like me to do, comment below. Until then, see you next time.